Right. Oh, look, fuzzy camera. We are back again. It is Monday, the 25th, and I am joined yet again by Carlo, this man over here. Say hello, Carlo.
Hello, hello, hello.
You'll know him from such places as making rules decisions on the NRG Discord page. And I'm also
Or not.
joined.
Sometimes I just ignore them for as long as possible and hope that somebody else will solve the problem.
Yeah, definitely.
I think people might notice.
Probably. I think so. We're also joined by our close friend from across the pond, Brett, who has joined us here today, partially by my. If anyone saw the NRG stream, you'll know exactly why Brett's here, and if you don't, then I'll leave you for that treat later on into the session because it's going to be a good treat. I honestly tell you. How you doing today, Brett?
Man, I am doing all right. As I said, we've got some ice storm going on here in Indiana, but I am sitting safely in my Amazon VIP parking spot as normal, so everything is as it should be.
Everything is as it should be. There you go. Right. Okay then. So we've got some things to go over. We've got, the first one to go over was they released the Vision in Flames Commanders thing. Now I know, Brett, that you'll be, you've already put comments forward on things on other content stuff, so that's fine. But we saw three commanders. We saw Jamie, Jor, and Tormund. I'll be honest with you, I'd forgotten we'd seen this come like Friday, Saturday, and it only came out like late Thursday. Which says a lot for me. Carlo, have you read this? It's traditional that you've not read these before the day. Have you read this one?
Yeah, I had a look. I had a look this time, honest. Yeah, mostly because I wanted to see what was going on with Jamie. Jamie's massively been overlooked for quite a long time. I wanted to see where he was at. I like the clarity on his cards now. I like the top part, bottom part. It makes they're clearly learning and growing in that part rather than just having separate paragraphs and everyone's a bit like, are they connected? Aren't they connected? There are some things there. I mean, Tormund like really jumped out to me as like, well, I thought you were gonna get rid of loads of these things. Like I thought you were telling us that like free actions, auto charges, things like that, just like weren't a thing anymore. So Tormund, based on the description of what they think is going to happen, looks powerful because he acts the way they say this is powerful right now and we're taking it out of the game.
Yeah, definitely. As a free folk player, I'll be honest with you, Jamie. The reason I like Jamie is this. They've cottoned onto the fact that commander cards when the commander's not alive are good. So this cycle effect, I'm a little bit worried with the cycle effect because I think some of those cards are objectively just not very useful. Obviously useful as in like if the situation comes up, you'd use it. 100% you'd use it. But I think that actually the majority of the time, if you have it at the end of your hand, you'll probably just cycle it anyway. Towards the end of your turn or the start of the next turn, probably at the end of your turn to cycle through more decks, because in the end of the day, Lannisters want to cycle through their deck and get the cards that really matter. Now, we don't know what the new deck will look like, so it might be that these end up being the better cards anyway, but the point is that cycle effect that is just, you don't even need Jamie to have been died to use the cycle. Cycle's always good in card-based games, so,
Yeah.
Jor, Joe Mormon,
It looks like he got a combo with Corrin.
So the thing is, right? This is the kind of weird bit with it. Jor's combo with Corrin is obvious, right? It's just straight up. That's an obvious combo.
Obvious troll is obvious,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But it doesn't. Yes, there's an element of combo there, but the moment you attack Corrin with more than one attack in a turn, the combo is essentially gone. On most part, and I think that for me is the big killer, is that you already want to attack Corrin's unit more than once a turn, and Jor just I think further pushes that. I think, but yeah,
I'm interested to see how the Night's Watch pan out. Like if they can, they're clearly putting their eggs on the table. If that's the saying, I don't think it is. They're putting their cards on the table with the Night's Watch. They've put their eggs of elite army into this basket. They've put it back out there, and I think they're trying to redefine the Night's Watch as low number of units that have high impact on the game, right?
Yeah.
And it will be a big testament of whether or not, Night's Watch will determine whether or not they have been able to achieve that, because that's what they envisaged for them early on. And yet competitive Night's Watch, particularly now with Q4 releases, is about solo Watch Marshal spam, insignificant conscript spam, combined with single powerful impactful activations, Swarm Brothers with John or something like that, or Crossbowmen, etc., which is just the state of 1.6 in general. That is the state of the game. That's what makes Starks powerful, that they can have like passing activations and powerful activations at the same time. And that's what Night's Watch are playing into. It's giving them a powerful position right now. But it will be very, very interesting if they're able to redefine the faction in the way that they intended, which is that they don't out-activate everybody, but are still a competitive force. So, I'd be really interested to see how the Night's Watch end up. And I think that they're a very, they're all flavorful factions, but I think that they're a particularly flavorful faction if they can pull that off right.
Okay. Brett, you're just a summary of your thoughts. I know you've said them before, but just a summary of your thoughts where we are.
Yeah, as you guys mentioned with Jamie, there's going to be some situations where you just kind of cycle through his deck with those cards. I think it would be less because you're just wanting to get through your deck, and more because I envision some situations where Jamie is in a unit, let's say halberds, we've seen them. There's going to be a lot of situations where it's going to be to your benefit to just let Jamie have a spot on the field, similar to what the old Jon Snow veterans were when they first came out. You just didn't want to go mess with them. That might come up, and if that's the case, then Jamie is probably not having a big impact with his cards. That's hypothetical, of course. You could also just throw Jamie right into the middle of your army and make sure that everybody's kind of rallying around him. So I think he's pretty cool. I think his cards are pretty nice. It's kind of a similar thing with Jor. He's pretty cool. As Carlo mentioned, it definitely seems like it's a direction of the few and the elite Night's Watch. So what they've done with solo Watch Marshal, what they've done with conscripts is going to determine if they can still bully their way in with activations or not. So I think some people are probably holding their breath on that, because as Carlo mentioned, if it is the same, if you can get to a lot of activations by pushing cheap units and then still have some really powerful units, it could be a little over the top, I guess. So it'll be interesting to see how the Night's Watch shapes out. And then as far as Tormund, if the 6-inch charge, I believe that's rush of aggression for him. If the 6-inch charge comes with the penalty of the vulnerable token on the unit that charges, I think it's a lot more fair than what we see from Devastating Impact right now. Also with Devastating Impact, it implies maybe something is changing for the Starks. I've heard the theory that maybe Starks are just straight up getting Rush of Aggression instead of Devastating Impact, or are the Starks getting this reworked version of Devastating Impact, which is way more manageable than 1.6 Devastating Impact. I think I speak for just about everybody, even the guys who play Starks know that Stark deck is just stupid right now, and one of the large contributing factors to that is the Devastating Impact. I charge 6 inches, you take 2 wounds. Screw you. Here's my berserkers coming at you from 13 inches away. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, fair enough. Cheers. I'll talk a little bit about Tormund as a free folk player, just very quickly. When I saw this, I wasn't. It's really weird. I think he's probably objectively as good as he currently is, if not probably slightly better. But it didn't excite me. It didn't excite me because I don't know where I'd use him. Like, one thing I will add now, I ran Tormund to competitive final in Boards and Swords that to be honest, I threw with a list that wasn't even Tormund. I threw by playing my Harmer list, and I played it badly in that game. The point is that Tormund isn't uncompetitive as he currently stands. He just doesn't see competitive play that much because there seems to be better options. What I see from Tormund here is that they've made him probably objectively better I would go as far as saying I do think he is probably better. But they've also completely changed the way he functions with the list. And it's in losing the healing, losing the extra dice, those kind of things. And sure, the crit blow auto 6 is a really nice card. But it's not what I know Tormund for. And as a result, I can't evaluate Tormund and say, yes, I think he's going to be good or bad, because I have no concept about how he'd work with the current set of components I have to use with him, and where he'll be with the later set. And I think that's the biggest difference with Tormund, more so than the others, is that I know Free Folk are going to be changing significantly, but Tormund's just not very good if you're talking about Raiders and Trappers. And now we know Raider Trapper spam is changing. It's got to. But the simple fact of the matter is if the other infantry don't get buffed, I'm not going to take Tormund ever, because I'm going to be using solos, which I hope to use different commanders for. I simply don't care about Tormund. Also, crit blow on a card, I hate. Absolutely hate crit blow in general in the game. I think crit blow is probably the worst mechanic, even without the precision combo, because crit blow has the capacity to make any unit absolutely explosive, and it adds a variance to the game that you can't possibly ever factor. And it's a big criticism of cavalry charges, lance cavalry charges, where you get hit by something with 9 dice and take 18 hits or 17 hits or 16 hits, and you're like, well, I'm just dead. Like, like even if I've got a good armor save, I'm still dead. So yeah, I'm not a massive fan of that myself. I don't like that in the game. Going to chat there quickly. Strength of Torment is determined by the quality of 1.7 units. Yeah, it's harder to compare them, very much so. It's hugely unit dependent, and crit blow, yeah, it is just a massive blowout card. It could be amazing. It could be completely garbage.
I have to disagree.
Go on.
I think that... So, I understand that when we play competitively, and like everybody knows that I pretty much only play competitively, that competitive players are trying to marginalize risk.
Mm-hmm.
But there has to be an element of chance. Like, this game is chance, and I don't have an inherent problem with a high roll, low roll. It's a very high skill to be able to put a value on that and to be able to mitigate against when your opponent has that, to understand the risks that you're willing to take, to say like, oh, I am willing to take this cavalry charge. Yes, it could be huge, but actually, like, I think that this is roughly going to be the outcome of it, and that I'm okay with that. It also massively empowers weakened tokens and stuff like that. And I think the token use is very, very important, and actually the most for middle quality players, people not playing at the very, very top level, it's the thing that they undervalue the most. Like, the right token at the right time is the most game-changing thing that this game has, which is why letters is generally considered such a powerful zone. So I just like, I actually quite like, I used to play a game which is now almost dead. It's actually like being brought back by a different game company, a game called Dystopian Wars, and it hugely revolved around an exploding 6 mechanic. So that is, a 6 is 2 hits and you roll a new dice again, and that 6 can gain more 6s and more 6s. And I never had a particular issue with the fact that things were effectively very, very luck based, but you have to understand how to use it, and you have to not get caught up. Like, I mean, to be honest, I got drawn into a conversation just this week about like whether or not luck determines the outcome of your game. Well, of course, luck determines the outcome of your game, but you should be throwing enough dice in a game that it evens out. And understanding when you can push your luck and when you need to marginalize your opponent's luck, and how you just like need to make your opponent take on more risky things is a huge part of the game to me. So I don't have any inherent issues with crit blow existing, unlike yourself.
No, yeah, I can understand that. And I have no, I do agree to some extent that you do need mechanics like crit blow to exist. I just think that assigning crit blow to an auto charge is exactly what Devastating Impact essentially used to do anyway. I mean, this is kind of like the trade-off here. Rush of Aggression for all intents and purposes, on most components in the game, you can very easily essentially equate it to Devastating Impact, with minus the horse auto wound effect, right? That's the only thing you can't do. But it is essentially going to be close to an extra hit on average. With most things we're rolling 6 dice, it's going to be an extra hit on average. It probably will equate to more than that if you account. It's going to be charge rerolls as well. So you know you're probably getting 2 more hits on a standard 6 dice attack. And now if you're talking about anything with more than that, you're looking for more. So it probably equates to about the same amount. But it's that probability that there's the probability that it could hit higher.
The potential.
Yeah.
The ultimate potential and the worst outcomes are both far more extreme.
Yes.
Yeah, like I understand, and
raising extremes is always a bad
players
thing.
like to lean towards consistency.
Yeah.
And that is what it is.
It is. But no, I mean, we have to wait and see. Well, one thing I would want to mention though, and I know that we here love picking out wording and making Simon look like idiots. But Rush of Aggression and Devastating Impact, I'm guessing are the same trigger. But interestingly, Rush of Aggression is when a friendly unit performs a charge action before rolling charge dice, and Devastating Impact is when a friendly unit is performing a charge action before rolling charge dice.
As soon as I read that, I literally hung my head, because it's like, they can't not be intended to be the same trigger. So why is it not identical wording? Like, how are you not just copy pasting these things across? Like, do you know what I mean? It's like,
it's I mean, I don't know about you, Brett, but that just seems like they're on the same commander, man, and it's the same. It's clearly meant to be the same trigger, surely. Has Brett just given up? Brett just he doesn't know what to say.
They're the same trigger. I would feel pretty confident that they are going to take care of these things. You've seen like a preview, you've seen like a spoiler, but I would feel very confident that Simon is aware of things like this, and I think it will get cleaned up by the time it's in everybody's hands, makes it to the app, things of this nature. So
okay.
I wouldn't put too much thought into that little thing there.
I mean, again, like I am willing to believe that things like this have been picked up at some point. I think what makes me surprised is that this mistake was made in the first place. Because
that's actually a really interesting response. I know it's not Simon's response, or it's just Brett saying something, but I had massively assumed that this was final cards. Like, that's my assumption. My assumption was this is final cards that are already at the printer. That's super interesting. Like, do we think that these cards can all change? Like,
don't they say subject to change before final release on the cards? I actually don't.
None of these do. No.
No.
Not in the release. These don't.
Okay.
No, none of the visions say that.
That's out of my scope to make comments.
I'm not asking you for Simon's answer. That is just a really interesting. Like, I thought we were being shown final stuff. Like, I thought we were being given snippets of things that we were about to own, not given work in progress previews.
And that could be the case. So that's why I'm saying it's out of my. I really just can't even answer, because that's out of what I can.
It's honestly fine. I've just realised as well, in a little bit, and this is just me being really super pedantic now, but Countercharge and Devastating Impact, you can tell that they're not the same, because the image on Tormund is not the same, and the border shape is not the same. They're actually different sizes. I know it's a little thing, that's just being really nitpicky. But yeah, little things like that. They're actually not the same design of card. Tormund's head is a completely different size. Anyway, right, moving on from the visions. We saw the Q&A. Did either of you guys stop by and watch the Q&A?
I caught the last 10 minutes. Honestly, 100%. I knew it was going to be on that day. I tried to find it, and I literally couldn't find it. Like, I literally searched Facebook, searched the groups. I searched on YouTube. About 40 minutes later, somebody finally responded to me on Discord that I'd asked and sent me a link. And that's the only way I found it. And I intended to go back and watch it again, but I just forgot. Like, I caught the last 10 minutes, but very, frustrating, shall we say, that somebody who wants to watch it and knows it exists can't easily find it.
That's just Facebook for you, though, isn't it? Absolute classic Facebook. Hosting it as a Facebook Live event. It doesn't bother me that they host it as a Facebook Live event. That's obviously fine. It annoys me a little bit that they aren't just recorded onto the CMON YouTube as well at the same time. Wouldn't that just make a lot more sense? I don't even know if CMON got
that's
YouTube.
where I went to try and find it.
Yeah.
I went to the CMON channel and was like, wait, where is it? And stuff like that. So
that's a bit of a shame. But
yeah.
Long and short of it, what did they say? Not much. Some questions were kind of semi-answered. What the classic one was, what game mode should we be using? And Brett, how about this one? A bit of a throw in the pan for you when this was said, but Michael said, it should be 2021 is the game rules we should be using, flat out. Like, we should be using 21 rules, and we should be using 2021 game modes. Yeah, fine. That's absolutely fine. He did go on and say, though, don't use this new homebrew units of mixing the new units with old units and things like that, though. You know, he said that that's probably not very wise. Yeah, cool, great, awesome. But Brett, that throws a bit of a kind of like, I guess, a wrench in your plans a little bit, or it kind of like gives you a mixed message, because I know that you've been preparing for the replacement Adepticon, right? And they're using 1.6, and that's in late March. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. So how do you feel there on that?
So my exact answer from the CMON contact that's helping me put this together, it was basically, I don't know when the app will be updated, which is implying that what's in the app is to be used. He said that he would expect 1.6 to be used, but I'm taking that as if the app updates in time, I'm saying the end of February, for any participants to get some practice in with 1.7 game modes, then that's fine. But if we're at the end of February and the app hasn't updated, the signal that I got was to go ahead and push through with 1.6 and use the 1.6 that's available on the app.
Fair enough. I think it is interesting. I mean, obviously they want to use the one that's on the app, which I think is the right decision. I'm 100% in agreement with Robert there, by the way, and your contact there, and using the app I think is the right choice. I do, but I think it is a little bit kind of telling that the designers are like, oh no, use the new cool stuff, use all the new cool stuff as soon as you can. It's like, actually for the competitive scene, that's actually not very reasonable. We can't expect that change to happen as quickly. Which I think actually from the CMON there, I think is actually a very measured response, and I appreciate that what they're saying there is, hey, War Council is what we'll use, and if War Council is this, we'll use that. If War Council is not that, then we won't use it. You know, for me, that is endorsement enough to know that from a competitive standpoint, that War Council is... I don't care what the designers say, actually, at that point. The designers' opinions and their points are irrelevant. It is War Council's is the be-all, end-all. You know, which is nice, actually. I like that, because it means that I don't have to worry about things that people say anymore. I mean, just look at an app.
I do have to ask, as you know, as a website developer, how long does it take them to put the 2021 rulebook on the app? Like, how can they not know if they're intending to be playing 2021 right now? How long does it take? Like, genuine question. Who makes War Council? Who does it for them? Do they do it themselves?
Company based in Singapore. I believe they bought it out, but I don't actually know.
Like,
yeah.
How long does it take to? Because you know, like so obviously now, for those who don't know, I'm sure everybody in the live chat and probably most people watching, the TTS World Cup, the Song of Ice and Fire World Cup, is using 1.6.
Yeah.
Now 1.6 has gone away from the site, so the app is the only place to find it now. So I regularly go through the app to bring up the rulebook now, right? So, you know, it's just a PDF document that's linked to the app. It couldn't take more than 1 hour to update. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. You know, if it was a link on the website, it would be done. You know, I could do it in the time of this video. So I'm just really, it's really crazy that if they want it to be official, that makes me so confused.
Yeah.
There seems to be a massive delay between what the developers want and what is in the app. So I just don't understand the connection between who makes these things or who does these things or, you know, etc.
Obviously, when dealing with a company like Simon, you got to factor into account it's not just one or two people. You know, there's a whole raft of people. It's not just as simple as Michael says something and then it gets done. You know, there's usually delays and other things. So I understand that perspective, but it does bring up some questions. Brett, I don't know if you had any further light on that.
Yeah, not really. It's I don't really do very much, so and I don't have a whole lot of answers.
No, I wouldn't expect you to. Don't worry.
That I don't really know how that works other than exactly what you just said. There's a whole lot more people in Simon than like Michael and Fabio, so that it's somewhere in there. I know Michael and Fabio are working really hard, and they're very busy with what they're doing, but then that's not their department, some of this other stuff. So I initially reached out to Michael to ask about Adepticon, and he just passed me through his channels. So again, Michael's probably the person everybody knows because he does a pretty good job with public relations and making it known and keeping in touch with the community. I commend him for that. Yeah. But there's just definitely stuff that he can't do, and he just genuinely couldn't help me. So that would be my guess. There's probably a whole lot of people that do a whole lot of things that I don't even know about, and probably everybody else just knows nothing about Jon Snow.
People who literally are just completely unknown to us as consumers, but obviously work within Simon. You know, Simon's not just 50 people. I wouldn't take a guess at how many people they have for the company if you consider all the different sections. Actually, it's probably about probably verging on a couple of hundred, I'd have thought. Maybe it's at most.
I was going to say, like, I don't think it's wildly different to 50 people, right?
No,
like,
it'd probably be like between 50
we're
and 100.
We're not talking about like thousands of employees.
No. But they do a lot of their production and things. Obviously, do you count them? And you know, there's a whole raft of things you have to consider after that. Anyway, that's not the point. So I did want to bring up though, at this point, you mentioned there that you talked about Fabio and Michael, and you talked about kind of different things you're doing. In case anyone hasn't known, I say we. To be honest, this was set up by Brett and the guys at Tabletop Warden, Ilya and Yannick. Big shout out to them. You guys did as part of what the guild's been trying to do, an outreach with Fabio, right?
Yeah, and it ended up being really cool and fun. And I think for the most part, I don't know who's seen or who hasn't seen that video, but we picked Fabio's brain pretty well. And he was a pretty good sport about answering the questions. He gave us more than I expected, some insight into things that, you know, I didn't even know. I asked questions about, you know, play testing before I had been involved in it in any way. And he gave us a lot of insight on the design process and the development process, and even some insight on how that works from, you know, the relationship between he and Michael. So it was pretty insightful, actually. It was a pretty neat little off-topic interview. I guess it wasn't a focus on 1.7 and spoilers. It was just a focus on, hey, this is Fabio, and this is what Fabio does, and here's how these decisions get made, and here's inside of his mind a little bit. So I thought it was pretty neat.
I remember you guys recording this way before Christmas, and I teased on Tourney Ground that there was something interesting coming, and this was way back. I think TSL was still only just finished. Anyway, point in case, it took a while to edit. Yannick has got other things going on as well as Ilya, but it's finally here. So go check it out, guys. I'll drop a link at the end of the session today. I'll drop a link in chat because I do recommend it. It's about half an hour long. And you get to listen to even more Brett as well as Yannick. I think, isn't it? Yannick's there as well.
Ilya.
It was Ilya.
But
yeah.
it's funny that you say that about the timing, because by the time, and God bless Yannick, he's doing a lot of stuff for school and he is actually very, very busy. But by the time he got around to it, one question just was removed and edited out completely because it wasn't even relevant anymore, because like it was literally answered in Visions in the Flames. So it was like, it was a question about the rulebook, which wasn't even, the 1.7 rulebook wasn't even released when we recorded it. So that whole like 7-minute question just got bloop. So,
there you go. But no,
very, very busy with his studies. Yannick is.
Cool. All right then. So we talked about all the news stuff. We have got some other stuff we'll check up on later on. But it's down to tournaments. Now, I know that we've had some people from Lockerbie's tournament, the Tale of Growth and Decay, which I believe is still going, but is entering its last week. I just wanted to give a good shout out to them. They're still working on it. I think there's a couple of games left to play. Of all of the people that we see, Decay is currently in the lead. It is literally a tale of growth and decay, just like I'd called it. So Decay is currently winning, but I know that's been quite a lot of interest around that. And Griffin, who is a name that we have heard of or will hear of in a minute, is doing all right. And then he said he enjoyed it as well. So go and check out where that's all at. I know you played one of your last games in it, Brett. Was it? Did you play your?
Yeah, I think it was my last game.
Yeah.
I played neutrals, and the first 2 games were super fun, and then everybody else caught up to neutrals, and it's
not fun.
It just goes downhill really fast once they can catch up with some of those neutral toys. But the first 2 rounds were really fun. I felt like a dominant faction.
So interestingly, we've just seen in chat that it's actually finished last night, and it was Decay who won. So that is a hugely hilarious name for me.
Aptly named.
Yeah.
You know, it's serendipity.
Lockerbie, can you run another tournament and call it a Tale of Growth and Mazarath? Can you do that next time?
Decay kicked my ass. I can't remember the last time I've been beaten as badly as Decay beat me. He beat me 14-2 with his Night's Watch. It was in round 3, and
good thing it wasn't ranked,
by that point. Yeah. But I mean, he smoked me. It was I didn't stand one single chance in that game.
But
we won't go into it.
Let's just give you benefit of the doubt. Right? Benefit of the doubt. You are running neutrals. If you'd actually played a real faction, you might have done better. But playing a non-faction is pretty bad.
Sucks. Jon Snow just made me so sad because of this interaction that happened, and I guess playing around with Starks and Night's Watch mostly competitively, I don't run into something like this, but it just made me so sad when I had set up this panic token on his trackers with Watch Marshal, and I went to throw down Calculated Cruelty, which I had to play, and then he played For the Watch and removed the token. And then I came to the realization, not only do I not get to play this card and I'm about to get blasted by these trackers, but I actually lose this card because I have to play it and then I can't resolve it. And I didn't have a new Bolton unit within 6 inches, so I didn't even get the D3 wounds. It was just so sad.
Yeah.
So, and then they just proceeded to blow up a unit of Cutthroats in typical trackers with Martial fashion. So if you're listening, Decay, I'm still sad about that.
Salty. Absolute salty tears. And thank you to Lockerbie in chat there. He's going to work out something with my name. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure the tournament should be called A Tale of Mickey Coming Last or something like that, you know, like...
All right. How about you actually enter a tournament for once?
Ooh, getting called out. Speaking of which, you know, I was looking at maybe entering Mickey Stir, Michael Kerr from Australia is putting on another ELO event. ELO seems to be the only tournaments that kind of are out at the moment. Nobody seems to have any faith beyond myself and the World Cup. Nobody has any faith that that games are interesting in 1.6. But I was really pleased to see a tournament pop up. Obviously there's the Slaughterhouse rules. So there's that as well. But that one's been on the cards for a long time and is a whole thing about trying to make things interesting. But I think that this tournament has popped up in the last week is something of the community coming to the realization that this balance we have right now is going to last for a long time. We can't not play until the new balance comes out.
Mm-hmm.
If we do, then we're just giving up on the game. We have to play some, if you like the game, you've got to play it. So I think I'll be looking to enter Welcome to 2021. I think has he gone for he's gone for new missions and new rules.
Yes, it's everything new.
Yeah. So yeah, ELO handicapped, sure, fine for me. I created it because I think it's interesting. I'd enter it either way around. But yeah, I think I'll take a punt on another event because it's been a while since I played a competitive game.
I think it's hilarious that the first person to sign up is becoming a name that we've seen multiple times now. That'll be Ray from Wargames ID. He's becoming a big name, which we'll get to in a second. So the World Cup, the thing that we're all here for. I think we're all here for the World Cup. Are we here for the World Cup? Brett, are you here for the World Cup?
I'm here for the World Cup and my moment.
Your moment, is that what you're going to call it? Your moment.
Yes,
right.
My moment.
So, a bit of context for this moment that I think Brett's going to just give us all a kind of like a flavour. Brett was absolutely scared out of his mind at the start of this week. Free folk are OP. I can't beat free folk. God, can't beat free folk. Can't beat free folk. And then, so he asked, I think it was Tom, Winter is Coming, for a practice game of Brett's lists versus Rohan's list. Rohan was the player who's playing in this round. And Brett beat him 10-9, right, Brett? Was that right? I think it was 10-9, wasn't it?
Yep. Yeah. 10-9.
10-9. And then he still wasn't 100% sure. He's still looking for a game. I was kind of semi wanting to play. I ended up actually watching that game and then ended up going on a right rant after the game. But then proceeded to play against Brett the next day. And Brett beat me 10-9. Which is, fair enough. I hate Rohan's lists. I will say that. I said that to Brett at the same time as well, and when I was giving Brett advice. Brett, free folk. You were taken to 2 10-9 wins, yeah? And you were like, I don't know about my start list. I don't think it's very good. And then on the day, he actually played his Mammoth list, not his Trappers list, and it was basically over in 3 turns? If that? Would you say?
I think when the second Mammoth went down, it was early round 2.
Yeah. So he killed the Mammoth in early round 2, and proceeded to
both of them.
You basically wiped all the other units off the field, right? Was it the end of round 4 that technically the game ended? But round 4 was essentially you did 2 attacks and that was it.
Yeah, I actually ended up killing everything, but the Endless Horde brought back 1 unit of Trappers, but I actually wiped out all 30 points that he had initially deployed.
So, Brett, what are you going to say about Free Folk today for me?
What I have to say about Free Folk today, Free Folk are not super overpowered. I think I have to admit that a lot of my issue with Free Folk is my own being inside my own head, being my own worst enemy. I was so afraid of free folk. This is kind of weird because I said we would elude, can't get past this one opponent. And then I went to Mickey, who, again, for people who don't know, Mickey probably really set off this insignificant spam free folk list and really kind of set the standard for what that 11 activation list looks like. So I went to Mickey for training, and Mickey grabbed me and got in my face and said, "Don't be a little bitch. You're playing Starks. Go engage them. Screw the trappers. They don't do shit when they're engaged. Go charge them and win the game." And then that's what I did. So thanks, Mickey. But no, they're so they can't be overpowered.
Brett's held a gunpoint, Bob. That's what's getting Brett to admit this right now. Gunpoint.
Yeah, I hired a random guy at Amazon to sit in Brett's van and wait for this moment and just pull out a shotgun. No, I think Go on, Brett.
They're not overpowered. I think a lot of it is at them being as powerful as you let them be. Mm-hmm. So if you dance around and try to avoid being engaged because you don't want to be flanked by trappers and things like this, then I think ultimately you're playing into them. And it's weird because probably everybody's like, "Yeah, Brett, we already know that, stupid." And then like I'm making this realization, like I'm giving lessons that people don't know. But yeah, like especially with Harma, if they're all engaged, there's no feinting maneuver. If you're engaged and they can't get in your front, there's no feinting maneuver. If they're engaged, they're not using diversion tactics. So yeah, Brett, I was just a big bitch, and then I talked a whole lot of trash to general channels, just raging about how free folk were unbeatable and Dance with Dragons, and I'm just a jerk. So I take it.
I always say, and I say this while contradicting myself, but before you ever say anything's overpowered, you should play it. You know, like I think when you play as something, you get a whole new understanding for its limitations. You know, like you don't see limitations when you look at your opponent's army. You know, like if you only see a wall of insignificant that you can't score points from and you can't do these things against, like you limit your vision of the game and how you see it play out. As soon as you play as that army, then the game can feel so different, can feel like you know what you're scared of as the free folk player, you know. And I say that about everything except that, you know, I don't actually scream overpowered about Starks. Like I think that Starks are beatable, you know. I don't say they're overpowered, but I do refuse to play them. So, you know, like I know I'm being contradictory there. I refuse to play Starks while also saying that I think that they're the most powerful faction. But I've never gone around telling people like, please nerf Starks because I can't beat them. Mm-hmm. If you think that something's unbeatable, honestly, just play it a few times. You'll understand it from a whole new perspective. You'll become a better player for doing it. That's why I try and play practically every army, you know? Mm-hmm. Say practically.
Yeah.
No neutrals. No, I can't.
Nah.
Yeah. Not until Vargo's absolute god mode.
Yeah. Now this actually brings me back, and the reason I wanted, obviously Brett, I appreciate what you said there, but actually what Brett says there is not, it's not really about free folk, but I think there's an important lesson to be learned there, as Carlo highlights. Just because you can't play against something or you find something bad, or difficult to beat, doesn't mean that it is. It's just understanding where you take the bonuses, and like Brett was saying there, like me and Tom basically proved to Brett that if you play in that kind of style against that kind of list, it just doesn't have any way of coming back into the game, and so it just falls further and further and further behind, and it just dies and dies and dies. And a lot of people don't do that, and people say, oh, you know, free folk's about baiting people into bad positions, and yeah, if you're not careful, you can get baited into bad positions. That's on the free folk player though to do that. If they're just going to run at you in a big wall, just kill the wall. You know, it does die. So yeah. On the flip side, though, learning, Carlo, this wasn't the first experience where a player who is widely considered a good player with their own faction, with other factions, you break the matchup down and you explain why a certain faction can or can't win. And I know you experienced it with Stannis, right? Mm-hmm. You actually did exactly the same thing with Stannis, because Stannis was like, I can beat Starks in Game of Thrones with his Baratheon lists. Yeah, we proved it, right? We played. Did we? I think me, you, and Van, and I think even Furioka did it. We all played against Stannis that like basically day after day after day, and we proved to him over 3 days that even 3 different playstyles from the Stark player, he just couldn't win.
Yeah.
Because his options were so limited.
Yeah, and that. So we're talking about a specific list into a specific list here, right? So let's not talk. It's very different when you talk generally about a faction can't beat a faction, and that's like not true at all. And we are talking about people playing at a relatively high theoretical level. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, if somebody just plays something badly or makes big mistakes, then you can always get into a game and beat them that way. But we were in a case of, in this particular matchup, into this particular game mode, the Stark player could practically win without rolling a dice. There was no chance left involved. They had flat out won the game in the deployment phase if they deployed in a particular way, set the objectives up in a particular place. They had already won the game before the Baratheons could do anything about it.
Yeah. And this led us down the theory where we talked about it in terms of loading the table. You are actually better off making the table horrifically one-sided and losing the 50-50 because your odds of winning the 50-50 and then going on to win the game were higher. And that's in a particular matchup, in a particular game mode. But I think that's something that's worth remembering, and that's something that me and Carlo do a lot. Like, when we look at games and we look at matchups, we don't look at what faction is versus what faction, that kind of thing. It's easy to look at faction and just kind of guess. And we do that as well. We do predict and we guess, and Carlo's going to have to make an apology in a minute. But the point is that we guess. But if we actually look at the list and we analyse the matchup, and we go from a theoretical standpoint of who's going to win this and how are they going to win it and what's the best odds, that's when you're asking us to actually unlock a whole new level of box and be like, right, well, this beats this component. This is how this component deals with this, and this is how it has to be used in this way. And I think this is a lot of the time when people talk about lists as well, Carlo. Breaking that down and that whole component list down, other players do it too, right? But breaking all of that kind of like very theoretical stuff down into how it works in practice is how you build your lists. And
that's how I've always built it. I like to feel that when I start the game, at the very, very least, I'm not at a disadvantage. You know, like, and I don't mean like across the board. I mean, right now, I don't want to feel pressured to have to do something. That's probably one of the reasons why I don't like playing against Mel, because, you know, like, Mel always has that little part to it of like, you must do something, you must make something happen. But in general, outside of that, and maybe Stone Throwers as well, but both of them, I think that they're massively overstated. And when you think through the logical ramifications, people put way too much pressure on themselves to do something. Anyway, point is that the vast majority of game modes, they're either two very well balanced lists that are looking at each other and nobody's in favor, or a lot of the time one person doesn't understand that they're actually currently in a disadvantage and they need to make something happen. And it's that lack of understanding that they need to force something to happen that can cause people to have problems. Particularly, it can be as simple as the most obvious simple option is inside Fire and Blood, whether or not you have to attack, or you can sit in your corner and say, well, if it's 0-0, I will win. So why don't you do something? That's the most obvious case, but actually in almost every game mode, you can look at the lists in a theoretical sphere and work out, if nothing happens, who wins. And once you understand, if nothing happens, who wins, then you understand who has to take the impetus and who has to make something happen. Who has to be the first person to force an engagement, who has to be the first person to make a charge.
Yeah.
And that's quite interesting.
Definitely. So there you go. So there's just an element, like, I guess, just a little bit of insight around kind of like on the back of that and the back of experience there from what Brett was saying into kind of like a bit of a theoretical discussion, but some brain flexing, really. Just like, that's the level of thinking I think that some players, a lot of players I think actually do it, but some players don't necessarily take into consideration. Well, that being said, though, let's actually look at the US standings. We see Griffin in first place with his Night's Watch, with John Othel, and Claw with Night's Watch, with Jor Alisa. 4 completely different Night's Watch heroes in the top 4. Well, in the top 2.
So Claw's list was super interesting. I spoke about it for ages in my predictions because I was really on the fence, and it came through. That list beat Mother of Dragons, right? Like
this one
really gave it a hammering. And I went backwards and forwards on it for ages, but in the end, I saw its ability to do that, and I'm really glad that it did because people have been saying that MOD is an issue without considering what could be stopping it.
Okay.
Chris Luke says that Othel's not a hero; he's a traitor. Fair enough, but he has for quite a while been propping up the Night's Watch, so he's a bit of a hero in my mind.
Yeah. All right then, but next down we see Ardeep Math. We've already seen this this thing here. A Baratheon with 2 wins, Carlo. This is getting awfully close to your Baratheons are going to qualify. You said they weren't going to qualify, and right now, it's looking good.
All right now, yeah, come on.
All right, okay, well, all right.
It's week 2. There's 5 weeks.
He's not going to admit it, guys. He's not going to admit that a Baratheon might qualify.
They might actually, if we go back and watch the video, they might qualify. If they qualify, I'm just gonna come out and call it, right? If they qualify, it's because their opponents let them win. Brett, if you lose this game against Ardeep Math, it's cause you shouldn't be losing this matchup.
Wow, that's pretty damning for Weasel Kingdom as well, though, Charles.
That's a big
Charles got beaten.
No. See, that's different. Again, he allowed his opponent to win. But I already told you that Steyer list is bad. Go and watch it. I told you Steyer is bad, and that's a bad list. And he went and played it, and he lost. Right?
So Carlo's not in the evidence. He's not going to admit anything today. We'll get him. Don't worry.
Sorry, was that what I was supposed to admit? I was supposed to admit that Baratheons are going to qualify.
Well, actually,
we're not even close.
Come
back to me in the 4th week, right? Come back to me in the 4th week, in the 5th week, then we'll see whether or not I'm willing to budge, right? You're not going to get me that easy. You've got one Baratheon sitting on 2 wins in NA.
Interestingly, though, Brett beating Free Folk. Obviously feeling happy about the win, Brett?
Yeah. Yep.
That was the last Free Folk, because Charles had played his game beforehand. That was the last Free Folk that you actually knocked out of the top spots. There's not a single unbeaten Free Folk in NA anymore.
Well, that's sad.
Is it, though? Or are you slightly happy still?
All of my hatefulness is gone now. If he had beat me, I wouldn't even be your guest, because you guys would be like, we're not bringing Brett on here. He's just going to rage out about Free Folk and
That's
stuff.
true.
So.
That's true. I definitely wouldn't have brought you on there. But actually, I mean, we'll give it its due. Yes, I don't think we even saw a neutral get. Oh no, we did see. Got to give him a shout out, Jesse L, playing neutrals. Rip. I'm sorry for your pain there, Jesse. but every other faction is represented. We've got Night's Watch, we've got Baratheon, we've got Stark, we've got Lannister, we've got Targaryen, all on double wins. That's pretty good, right? That's a pretty good faction split.
I think Dance with Dragons was a very good game mode for Baratheons.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think we'll see. We'll see with Winds of Winter. Everybody's looking to find out what Winds of Winter is like now.
Yeah.
Winds of Winter will be super interesting. I'm going to stick by when it goes to 5 rounds, when we have 5 different game modes and a ton of different oppositions. I still don't think Baratheons have the legs, right? I don't think that they have it to go the full distance. That's why I bet against them, and that's why I'm not changing my mind.
Yeah. Chris saying in that chat there, if you're into Dominatrix, save some cash and get just play Baratheons and get Carlo to rate your lists. Yeah, that sounds about right. So, I mean, it's different. It's good to have a mix of factions in the top 8. but I think at this point we are only on week 2. We've seen the one bye, which is why Hot Pie's got 3 wins or 3 games played because he just played the bye. We currently see Ariakas not in the top 8. That might change. Sunday, Bolton's in Skincare, currently not in the top 8. Khan Artist, he was another good player we've seen in Baratheon player though, true. But there is some scope for some of these players to get into the top 8 now. You know, this
Oh, absolutely.
people up here are going to lose games. So some of these are going to have to.
You know, people above you have to lose games. They're about to play each other, and anybody, I would say nobody is out yet, except for maybe those who have 0 points because they've resigned their games. Like as long as you don't resign, and that is an important point that some people don't understand. You get 0 tournament points for resigning. You get 1 tournament point for losing. You need to finish your games. But even at a 0-2, it's not impossible for you to qualify, especially if you've only had minor losses so far. If you've had 2 close games against players who are now right up at the top, then you've absolutely got a shot of getting in there. And, the 1-1s, any of those could be in with a shout. You just got to study the game modes, maybe get lucky with your matchups, or maybe you just play well,
Definitely. And I mean, look, the way, because I know he wants a shout out, so I'm going to give it to him. Ariakas lost to, who's this? Is this a guy called Bob? Is that right?
Never heard of him.
No. Brett, do you know who Bob is?
No, I don't know anybody named Bob.
He's from the same club or affiliation as you. No. Anyway, that guy beat Ariakas. Anyway, let's move on from NA. There's nothing interesting to talk about that. Right then, so that moves us into the EU region, and I think for EU, first of all, we've got to give him a shout out. I know he's been staying up all night for this. A man from the EU himself, and by the EU I mean not at all the EU, he literally lives on the other side of the planet. It is Deoxys, currently heading up the rankings after beating Larks in a stark mirror. Larks' Howland matchup into the start mirror, maybe not too good then. Maybe.
So the big failing of the tournament software is that it will just tell us that he played Larks, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, that he played Howland. It doesn't tell us actually which list he used. So I don't know whether or not he went with his 4 NCU setup, or if he went with what would be considered the more traditional Larks Howland setup. He practically crafted the more traditional 3 NCU setup list. I'd be interested to know how that one went, but I'm not super surprised. Lark's brilliant player, and I do still maintain that he's probably the best Stark Mirror matchup player there is. But Deoxys is a great player, right? There are tons of great players in both of these regional events. There are tons of big names. So to say oh my God, this person beat this person, it's anybody can beat anybody on a given day. There is luck involved, there is skill involved, and there's just the quality of the player on the day. Of course, I would not have written off Deoxys definitely at all, because brilliant player.
Yeah, I mean, crazy that Deoxys saying it was the 10 activation Howland list, which actually does surprise me, because I thought it was the 11 activation list which he was taking for the mirror, but clearly it wasn't. Maybe it's an element of a misunderstanding that me and you had on Larks' list.
Maybe the 11 activation Howland is for a Howland specific mirror, whereas I believe Deoxys is running Rob, not Howland.
He's running Howland Rob.
Either.
He's running Howland Rob.
Howland Rob. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Absolutely traditional Rob Howland pairing, showing that it has more value than the Howland.
Maybe Larks has outthought himself. It's actually a thing.
Yeah, and Elite Eddie, I can go and look at which list he used, but there's so many games. There's thousands on there.
There are actually literally thousands.
Interestingly, I went and had a look, and he has lost another game since, and Larks is no longer the top-rated player. Though I would say that's on a technicality. The Viper hasn't played a game in quite a while.
He hasn't.
So.
Right then, Brett, I know it's close to 8 o'clock. I know that you need to make a move. Was there any final thoughts? I know you. Thanks for joining me today. Obviously, any final thoughts on NA? Any final thoughts on EU? Anything that you want to just say?
If somebody was playing Vegas odds, I think they could have made a lot of money this last week. My guy Forioku, the crazy Forioku, I can't believe he's dropped 2. I'm not sure that anybody would have predicted that. And then Deoxys playing into the Larksmere. Now, I know that Deoxys is good. Deoxys kicked my ass in Wolves Howling. I was 4-0, went into Deoxys' 6th activation Targaryen list with Jorah. And, to start the game, I was apologizing that he had to play Mother of Dragons. And then at the end of the game, he just upended me. So he's definitely a strong player, and I think Carlo and I have talked about him. I think maybe he does it on purpose. He flies under the radar because he's always playing like the crappiest factions and the crappiest commanders. It's like, I don't really know how good Deoxys is because he lost with like Drogo, so he didn't get blown out, so he's probably pretty good. So yeah, I mean, when I went and looked at the standings in the EU, I was like, man, somebody just betting on these matches could have made some substantial money picking some of the wild card picks. But I agree with what you said. There's a lot of really good players. Much as I hate on Bob is actually a strong, solid player. He picked up a solid win against Ariakis, who's an amazing start player. So I think going into week 3, I think it's still anybody's event. I mean, whoever's lost one obviously can't win overall, but I think Carlo's right. Pretty much anybody is not out of it yet. So I think we should buckle in and keep watching this. It's been pretty exciting. A lot more exciting than I would have expected 1.6 with Dragons and Mammoths to be. So good job, Carlo.
Oh, look at
that. In honor of Charles Tran's trash talk season, and we're looking a little bit ahead, but who knows when you'll next be on, Brett? When 8 players qualify from NA and they play 8 players from EU, what's the split in the first round going to be?
Are you my guys out?
Yeah, I want to know. Come on. How many are NA going to win? How many are EU going to win in the first round when 1 player from NA plays 1 player from EU 8 times over?
I'm just going to write this down. I know it's recorded, but just.
Yeah. Come on. For Weasel. For Weasel's trash talk season.
I'm gonna if my North American guys hate me, that's fine. It's not going to be 50-50. I think it'll be 5, maybe 6 European wins, and I say that because I am a humble American player, and I know that I went through the European dojo to pick up some mad skills, some Napoleon Dynamite skills. The EU players have taught us a lot about the game, so
Grushalug says it's 5 NA, 3 EU. Charles says it's 4-4 perfect split.
Yeah.
EU comes back with a 6 EU, 2 NA from Leap Teddy. We'll see. So what are you saying, Brett? I want to hold you to either. You go 5 and 3 or 6 and 2.
5 and 3.
5 EU, 3 NA. That's my guess.
Okay.
We will hold
you
to
that. Are you going to be one of those? Are you going to be one of those 3?
I don't know. I went into Masters and I got smoked by my protege George. So maybe it's another mental block when I play EU players. I don't know. We shall see. You don't even know if I'm going to make it. I might lose to Ray. And
exactly.
It might be I might fall right into Dragons or something like this. So you don't know.
I think it's more than just that. I think it's I think Brett gets really nervous when it comes to finals of tournaments because he hasn't been in very many. Yeah.
No, I've not won a single TTS event.
That's true, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, not one single TTS event. So yeah, a little bit of Tony Romo. I don't know people who know Tony Romo. He was a pretty good football player on any given week. Got into the playoffs. He had a way of choking, and he's my favorite NFL quarterback of all time. And so I guess I just want to be just like him and choke really badly in the finals. Because I had going into I had a chance to maybe not win because of the ELO thing, but I had a chance to finish top 3 in Forioku's Wolves Howling, and I choked and got outclassed by Deoxys. So it's a thing. It's a thing.
And he's like an honorary EU player at this point. You know, I'm just going to pretend that he said that because he definitely has never said that. But yeah, okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Brett. I know you've got to head off. So we will catch you again almost definitely very soon. We'll probably end up playing a game this week or something silly. So
probably, yeah. Calling on Baratheon players to practice against Ray if he's still listening. I'm in the dojo against you, Ray. We'll see you guys later.
See you later, Brett. Cheers, man.
See you, Brett.
Yep. Bye-bye.
So, Brett leaves us, which gets it relinquishes the pain and the suffering that we have to deal with when Brett is here, because we've got to be nice to him, even though we aren't.
Back to the usual.
Back to the usual. No, obviously EU. Then there is one thing here. You've got a nearly Carlo. 2 Baratheon players in 3 and 4 matching up. One of them's going to go 3 wins.
So, well, absolutely, yeah. One of them's going to pick up a win. Victoria the Valiant is massively outperforming my expectations of where Andrew Estamont should be. She played 2 and 2 and won 2 and 2 with him. She beat Mahoney Slaw with his Starks. She's taken on Starks in the last 2 rounds. She's taken on a couple of names from the UK. Let's see if she's got what it takes when she goes outside the UK. Let's see what happens.
Mm-hmm. She's currently playing her game now, by the way. So if you are watching this live and you are awake in about 2 hours, I think they already started about an hour ago, give or take. You're awake in 2 hours, you'll probably see the result go live, but they are currently playing in game 1 on the NRG event. We will see that result come in live potentially later on today. Other stuff, I'm playing against Dankin, which is really annoying because Dankin's one of the patrons, so we've already been having some bants going backwards and forwards in the patron chat, which is bants, exactly as it says on the tin. But another Lannister matchup for me, again dodging Starks. I've not played Starks in the tournament through 3 rounds, which is luck.
I'm sure that Lannister High Sparrow matchup is something that you know quite well, though. So
it's a different list. It's a different list to the ones that I used to lose to when you ran them, because he runs only 2 poor fellows and the crossbowmen, but you only ran usually like 1 knight and then like some other stuff. Whereas he runs the double knights, but he loses a unit of poor fellows, which I think makes the matchup marginally easier. But I'll have to look at that. I don't think he's going to run that, though. I think he might run Gregor, because why the hell not? We'll see. But also, we've got Malleus versus Chris Eustace. So Chris is playing against a free folk player. I really hope that Chris loses. Screw that guy. Don't like him. Nah, he's all right. He's in chat. He's fine. He knows I love him, really. Rossi versus Wop was the kind of like crossover match there. Interesting. But again, I mean, you've got me and Malleus up there with Free Folk. Winter is coming, so you've got Free Folk are doing really well in EU compared to NA. Really well in comparison.
Always been true. I don't think that NA have barely ever, like US particularly, we talk about NA, but there is, of course, Canada and the US. The US generally has the louder voice, gets talked about more in terms of what results are coming on from there and stuff like that. I don't think Free Folk have ever particularly been a big player in the US. We've never seen tournament defining results coming from them. But they have in Europe, they've posted big positional, standings. Masters of Westeros, they actually had the highest average finishing position. No, they didn't win. No, that was Starks. But you also had, as always in EU, 30-40% of the tournament was Starks. So it's not surprising that they win. Whereas Free Folk have always been this niche but good pick. in the EU, there are some powerful EU players, free folk players, and I'm not surprised to see them up there.
Yeah, definitely. What's actually more interesting in the EU is that that's matched by the equal number of Starks, 3 Starks, which is surprising just because of the sheer number of Stark picks. 35% of the tournament was Starks, and we only see 3 of them in the top 8 now. Well, the unbeaten players is actually top 9 technically if you count unbeaten. But that's...
I forget what my prediction was. Did I predict 4 Stark entries?
I think you did.
Maybe out of the 8.
Yeah. So
we'll see.
That's interesting. We'll see. And then the 2 Baratheons and Duncan with his Lannisters, proving that Lannisters can do it, matching N-Line's record over in the US. No. Well, Baratheons and Lannister, Baratheon and Lannister are going to be here. They're going to be here in one way, shape, or form. So we'll see how it all pans out. All right then. So that's all kind of like the info there. There are obviously big names that have dropped. I mean, Masara Furioku 2 losses now. He can qualify. It's possible he goes and wins the next 3 rounds and qualifies. But the EU slots for winners that are 3 and 2 are limited. So only picking up 4 points so far from 2 narrow losses. It's the best he could do with 2 losses.
Mm-hmm.
But is it going to be enough?
Probably not.
No.
Probably not.
And then that's I think that's pretty much it, isn't it? We've got I think Mongoose has just played his 3rd game tonight. He's just played against can't remember who it was. It was illegal. That was it.
Yeah, I think lots of people jump into that. Lots of people very interested and should be. I'm very interested to see what Winds of Winter does for us this week. I'm super interested to see what lists perform well into it, what kind of pops out. And I'd be really interested to see what cards the players choose to draft. Like, I would love for us to be able to record what cards we picked and whether or not they won and stuff like that off the back of that. But that's all things that we don't really have power over. We can't really get that from the players. So, we do what we can, but maybe one day.
Certainly, if it's streamed, if it's recorded, that's something that I'm working on. That is something that I'm working on. Eventually, there's lots of things I'm working on at the moment for the streams, but it's when I have time or can be bothered. We've been there. Anyway, I think the other thing is someone said, where is the Night's Watch in Europe? The truth is there's only 3 Night's Watch players. As we know, Kolko lost early rounds to George, Open City. Nubman, a guy from France, he's not doing so well either, but kind of like submarining his way up the field a little bit. Scadman with his double johns. He played Mongoose in the last round. I saw that game, and it was quite a quick game.
I wasn't taken by a ton of the Night's Watch lists over in the EU. There's massively more entries in NA, and I like the NA lists more. So, where are they? Where are they at the moment? They're all playing Starks, it seems. All Baratheons and Lannisters. We have the big Lannister Baratheon entry, so it is what that is what it is.
Definitely. I was just gonna look Griffin's list there. Oh yeah. We talked about Griffin's. We didn't talk about Griffin's list. Just a shout out to his John list. Is that a list you've seen before do quite well? Carlo should know this list.
Should I? Craster, Walder, Corin. Tell me, why should I know that list?
This is the list that Brett piloted to the final of the event at Gamers Haven. Just before Christmas. It's exactly the same list.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I'm not saying that Griffin stole it, but it is interesting that he came up with the same list.
I've never been a fan of John. I don't know. I think he has value right now, definitely, with the dragons. Saving units that otherwise would die has big value. And I'm glad that he's having a comeback. But I've never been on the John bandwagon myself.
All right. Killjoy. But no, so I think that's all we've kind of covered. We've covered EU, we've covered NA, we've talked to Brett, we've made Brett go away because he smells. Anything else we need to talk about, Carlo? Oh no, that was it. Your announcement today. I know that you want to talk about it. I know that you want to say it publicly, live on air, but I'll say it for him. Carlo hates you. If you're watching this, I'll get nice and close to the camera. Carlo hates you. Right, now that I've established
I thought
that,
I was just trying to infer it for ages. Like, I can't believe it. Why do we have to stay it outright? I thought everybody knew that already.
I'm not 100% sure that people remember, so I have to just make it abundantly clear that Carlo hates you. No. Carlo, obviously, about rulings with the World Cup. There are lots of rulings going on. And I'm sure people will keep asking questions for rulings. I've stood in where I can on behalf of Carlo when Carlo's been playing WoW. Busy. I've
been playing less recently. I've been doing some painting. If I paint really, really fast, if I work really, really hard, I might only be 1 month behind after 2 months in the painting challenge. So, it's going to be a busy week.
I got inspired. I saw a little bit of Beric's stream. I popped in and saw him streaming and painting his mammoths. So I got a little bit inspired myself, and I have started mine. There you go. So he's getting there. God, these things are massive, awesome. By the way. This was nearly half a pot of paint. Admittedly, I used contrast as a base and then worked up, but there's stupidly big models, and so much hair. Anyway,
on Mickey's joke, honestly, he's talking about the post in which I kind of said, figure things out for yourself, which is my sentiment. It's not don't ask for rulings anymore. It's not I don't want to answer these things. The only thing that actually frustrates me isn't when people ask these things. It's when I see people getting things wrong. And I think that if people can approach the rulings as I should figure out the answer first, and only once me and my opponent can't come to the conclusion that we go for a ruling, that will get us to a whole higher, all of us to a higher standard of rule understanding. Once we all become more used to debating, shall we call it, arguing, some might say, debating the rules with our opponents in a just positive, open way, rather before they become a problem, before it becomes an issue, before anybody can ever be annoyed by it, then
Charles knows.
Exactly. No, I mean, even when people are playing a game, if you're playing a game and something's come up, I will, if I'm online, I will absolutely try and jump into your game and discuss it with you right away. I know that most people want rulings, things before they even happen, but I would just say bring it up with your opponent before you begin playing. When I played in the TSL and stuff like that, if I ever saw some interesting interactions, and the TSL is important because, of course, it was happening a lot in the TSL because I was obviously one of the first people to spam senior builders. So I understood that there would be an interaction there with the building of stakes that my opponent might not understand. Every single game at the start of the game, I would say, this is the way I believe it to work. This is why I believe it works this way. Do you want to discuss that, or are you just happy with that interpretation? Because I knew that was a rule that would come up. That's not because I'm the TO. That's not because I have some special power. That's a power that I believe that all players should be taking into their game. Every player should be saying, these are my rules, and saying, I believe I know them this way. Do you agree? And only until we say, oh, I don't agree with that, do we ever need to consider whether or not the TO needs to be involved.
Yeah, I'm happy with that, and I think it's the right way to do it. You wouldn't just immediately call the TO over every minute of every game in the real world. We get the opportunity to question things that might come up a little bit more, just because of the nature of being online, and that doesn't bother me. Rules discussion like that, of trying to work it out, where we as a community try and hash it out and try and work out what is actually the correct way to do it, that's fine. But I think a lot of it is down to individual games being played. And
but like I say, these players who are bringing things up before they happen are approaching the rules in the right way. They're looking forward and considering things that could be an issue, and and they're considering what could be an issue, and they're bringing it up. I just think that their first port of call should be to bring it up with their opponent. If you and your opponent aren't in disagreement, then there's no reason to make it a whole question that requires other people. Go vote on the start.
The official post for deep dives mentioned in the Q&A has been posted on the Song of Ice and Fire, the miniatures game Facebook page, not the group, not the discussion page where we have discussions, the actual official page with all the stuff on, where the Q&A was. There is a post up there, I'm guessing from Helena, is it, who does the Q&A? I'm guessing she's put it up. I thought it would be up over the weekend. She's clearly just gone back to work on Monday and only put it up now. That's fair enough. I can't complain at that. But it does mean that people doing their jobs.
Professionals, hey Mickey. Professionals, God. Only working.
I work on my weekend.
I'm spending every hour of the day on it.
I don't even get paid to work on my weekend, and I have to work on my weekend. It's a nightmare. Anyway, the point matters.
Absolutely. West Coast Bannerman Carl says everybody should go vote for Starks because they want to see what direwolves are changing. That might be wishful thinking.
I think it will be.
I hope if we do get Starks, then we see that. I might actually, God, can I believe it? Am I going to side with Mickey? I might like to see Free Folk, but I don't know. Free Folk have got plenty of champions. I just think that Free Folk at the moment could do with a bit of love from what they've seen. We've already seen loads, but everything... I'm scared of everything I've seen. It's like I want to see more because it's like I want to look, but I don't want to look. It's like a car accident at the moment. Free folk and their balance changes or a car accident is like, don't look. Okay, I want to see. I want to know. What are you going to do to him? Starks, I'm sitting here assuming Starks are going to get hit really hard. So I'm blissfully ignorant to the fact that I think they're going to get hurt.
I do think, if it was... I'm just going to straight up say this now. Starks, if you're wondering about Wolves or what they've done to Wolves, we don't know what's going to happen to Wolves. I actually would prefer to see Targs because I think Targs have had nothing to look forward to for a while, and actually looking at Targs might mean that they show us the new Mother of Dragons or more balanced version of Mother of Dragons. That's too much to hope for, isn't it? No, the reason I say Targs is because I think we all know what they're going to do with Wolves, right? Everyone should know what they're going to do with Wolves because it's obvious.
Kill them all. Do a lady on them.
They might make them better. They might actually make Wolves better. I'm willing to accept they'll make Wolves just better, but straight away there'll be 3-point activations because the minimum activation thing we've seen in the game is 3 points. That is the minimum cost of an activation on field, and off field it's 4. So Wolves are going to be 3 points. It's as simple as that. I don't know whether or not that means the attachment will be 3 points and they'll come with it, or whether or not the attachment might be like a 4-point attachment now that you're paying for a point of attachment and a 3-point direwolf. And if you're going to do that, you might as well just make it a 1-point attachment with the option to take a 3-point direwolf. Rather than having to hamstring people and saying you have to take the direwolf with this 1-point attachment. I think that would be pretty harsh.
Be interesting, say they're 3. Hypothetical. Say they're 3. How powerful is it at 3? How powerful does a solo need to be? I guess we've seen other solos, but we recently saw their talks about when something's unique, when an attachment is unique, it should bring more for its points than the generic version. So, I do think that Wolves are a very difficult thing to balance because nobody else is getting named solos, really. You know what I mean? There's them and the Mountain That Rides.
Jorah.
Everybody else is... They're using... Oh, okay.
But we'll move on. Yeah.
Does he exist?
The funniest thing is Jorah for a long time was one of the best things you could run in Targs. It had the highest win rate. 90% shots because it's only used by players who knew what Targs were doing, or no one else played him. So most of the people who played Targs who were losing lots, because let's face it, they were terrible, just didn't use him. So yeah. Anyway, Stark's interesting. I think Targs is going to be more interesting, though, because I think it will be good to see where they plan the Targs to go. It's all looking very weird and wonderful. But factions I definitely don't want to see any more of are Lannisters and Baratheons. I cannot be bothered seeing any more of that. Plus,
But they're the best, Mickey.
If they're going to show... Yeah, but if they're going to show anything for Baratheon, they need to show something for Stannis.
That's true.
Because Stannis has currently got nothing. So,
but we all know that Stannis is just waiting for his Lightbringers.
That's the kind of thing. Yeah.
That's the key to Stannis. That's the key that opens up the door.
It is.
We've seen that reduction in panic damage, which is obviously what they were inferring to for ages about the fact that like Lightbringers shouldn't be played. So maybe we should just start playing with Lightbringers, but not until we start playing with the new rules, not until we accept that we're moving to lower panic damage. So but I do still think that 6-point slot as a ranged unit that has the R'hllor keyword is just like the combo that Stannis is missing. So
yeah, I think I found a really good point to round off the whole conversation with. The finals, the World Cup finals. We're not even halfway through. We're approaching halfway mark for the World Cup. Regionals. Let's look forward to the finals just quickly. And with everything we've talked about today, all the way back to the Q&A and what Michael Chanel said, are you going to be using 2021 game rules for the finals?
It feels like... So obviously, it wouldn't be like a hindrance to the players because the players can change faction, they can change commander, they can change lists. So nobody can turn around to me and say, "Oh, like I got fucked over because the rules changed between the regionals and thinking my list was no longer good." So that's not an issue. So then the question is, does it make the game better for us? I still think that based on the fact that we're qualifying out of this rule set, that I think I will choose to keep it the same. I'm not gonna answer definitively, but I would say that my current standpoint is that I won't make any. I see no reason to move to the new rules. That's what I don't see. Like I don't see any reason to move to the new rules while our balance isn't built for it. I see value in the new game modes. I really like them. I think that it is actually bringing at least something new to the table. Maybe it's not better. Maybe it's just different balance.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, I'm all okay with different balance. Like, I'm fine with different balance that isn't better balance because at least it means that people can be creative and can come up with new ideas about what they think is going to win.
Definitely.
The game modes have value. The rulebook, I don't see value in that move, that change. As people have discussed, the big ones are mammoths and charges. That seems to be like a real thing, a real can of worms that I don't want to open.
Mm-hmm.
And that I think that there are base decks out there like Lannisters. Lannisters, we'll see how many qualify, but you nuke panic damage for a 33% reduction in what it does as an average across the board. Lannisters, neutrals in a panic kind of setting, they're all completely destroyed,
Mm-hmm.
And that is not a positive direction for the way things are balanced right now.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, as a free folk player, I'd both love it and hate it, right? Because basically you just don't go through raiders and free folk trappers anymore. Not even close to going through them at the rate that you need to go through them. A lot of anything with 8 dice that doesn't crit blow can't one-shot me anymore, so it's just not a threat. And there's a lot of other things out there. So I agree, and that's not what I want. I don't want, just I'd be happy, but I'd also be sad because I don't want the game to be more imbalanced. And I do agree, I'd see the imbalance, I think, more than I'd see the balance. I think that's the problem at the moment. But yes, all right then. We will leave it there for this week. Shout out to all the people who know they are, West Coast Bannerman, all the guys at the Guild, Sebastian, otherwise known as Bartender, for all the great work he's doing with the mod and keeping the World Cup going. And of course, we'll be back next week at the end of round 3 of the World Cup, where we will check out all the latest results and the news, and we'll see how things are getting on. Carlo, any final words, final thoughts before I let us go?
Yeah, I'm just going to shout out. I don't normally specifically call out stuff, but the one thing that I have really been looking forward to, and I'm sat here thinking that I'm looking forward to right now, is I'm really waiting for the next Sunday Slaughter podcast. Sunday Slaughter has been doing tons of great work for ages. I've always thought that Sunday's been bringing a brilliant level of professionalism to battle reports, videoing, and all that stuff. And his podcast's no different. You know, I know that Chris Strand's here, and Chris from Sunday Charles Tran and Chris Turan.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Tran?
It's Chris,
Charles Turan.
It's Chris Tran, Charles Trahan.
Turahan.
Trahan.
All right, that I've only just realized how confusingly difficult that is. Anyway, I know that they both drop in from time to time, particularly Charles Weasel Kingdom. But you know, like honestly, like just it's been a real breath of new voices. I love the way they're talking about the game and things like that. So if you like anything that we talk about, then go and listen to Sunday Slaughter. Those guys have great positive vibes, but also some really good thoughts on the game. So that's what I've been looking forward to, and that's the Song of Ice and Fire content that I've actually been engaged with recently. You know, like that's the thing that I've been finding keeps me interested in what's going on. So you know, like I say, go check them out because why not? Why not? I've been loving it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Brilliant. Cool. Good stuff. You heard it here first then, guys. You know, check out all... Well, you didn't hear it here first. You definitely heard it
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know where I was going.
You think that we're the first people to tell everybody
No. We're not the first people. But we're probably the first people to openly say...
We think a lot of ourselves, don't we, Mickey?
Oh, I think a load of you. Sorry, me. Yeah, obviously we're the first people publicly that aren't them to say check it out. So check it out. Obviously, no, we're not. Definitely not even the first people publicly to say that. But yeah, it is actually one of the few bits of community content that I've actually enjoyed listening to as well. Not that I don't enjoy listening to other stuff, but most of the time I just don't listen to it. I'm busy doing other things.
I did see a battle report actually dropped on the site, which I'd never seen the channel before, so I don't know if that's a new channel as well. I don't know if
World's Edge?
the latest. Let's.
Is it World's Edge?
Find it.
This one, not that one. This one when it loads. There you go. That one.
Yes, World Edge.
It's Gamma. It's
Gamma. World Edge.
Yeah.
Of course. World Edge is in up from Canada.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Cool.
So check them out.
I've not seen the image before, and I didn't recognize the name, but yeah, I'll go have a look at what is the first Mother of Dragons Dragon port. Of course. There we go.
There you go. You see. But yeah, cool, brilliant. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for tuning in this week. We will be back next week at the same time at the start of February. God, it's already getting close to February. Jesus, it was only just Christmas. And we will see if we're one step closer to getting anywhere close to the 2021 rule set.
I was gonna say it'll be next week by the time the balance comes out. 4 months will be gone like that in COVID times.
Yeah.
Life doesn't drag on at all, Mickey.
It doesn't, does it? Anyway, thank you very much for joining us again, guys. And you'll catch myself and Carlo next week. See you later.